Hey everybody, I'm going to be bringing you the next part in how to get out of Bronze League. So I made you guys a video how to get out of Bronze League, and I showed you the basic rules that you have to remember. Always build workers and supply. Do not build more buildings than you need, as in don't build a pylon before you actually are getting close to running out of supply. And and then the next rule was know how much you can support off your economy. So know how many buildings you can build off of one base or two bases, how much you can produce out of there, so that way you're not building more than you need, but also that way you can build the right amount for your base. And then of course the last little bit was just going into that late game was expand by the 10-minute mark and start teching up. And of course always remember to put down extra production facilities late into the game, but that is part of rule 3 really, especially when you get your third base, so you really want to. So we're going to show you, I'm going to go against a hard AI. This is what I'm suggesting for you, is practicing against hard AI. You can do very hard, but I think for getting out of bronze you can probably get away with hard AI most of the time. Right now we're not going to be looking at cheese. Oops, Protoss. And I'm going to go random. We're not going to be looking at defending against cheese. I've got a couple videos up that me reacting to a couple of different types of cheese. Not the perfect example. So anyways, first thing we want to do, always build that worker. So we're going to focus, we're only going to deal with one hotkey right now. Right now I'm going to deal with my Nexus hotkey, which I've selected to 3, and I'm going to deal with my probe, which is E. Other than that, I'm not going to deal with hotkeys. I'm going to play this through like as if I was a bronze player myself, and I'm just going to show you sort of the execution. So right now we're focusing on these probes, and really good to learn just the very, very basic opening. I'm not too worried about you guys learning the rest of the opening, but I do want you to learn that for Protoss, you build your first pylon at 9 supply. And because I don't know what my opponent is, I'm going to go check, make sure he's not Zerg. And of course, getting ready to build that next probe. That's the big thing, is those probes. The probes are the biggest thing we're focusing on right now. But anyways, I threw down my pylon at 9. That's when you want to throw it down for Protoss. If you're Zerg, you want to get your... you can either do the extract gas trick, if you do know that, with your Overlord, or you can just get out your Overlord when you've got one blank supply. For Terran, of course, that is that your supply comes out at what one am I trying to say? Your supply comes out at 10. Anyways, I'm just checking for a 6 pool because it's a Zerg, or a 10 pool even. If you had a pool down right now and it was a little bit finished, that would probably be a 10 pool. If it was all the way done, it would probably be something like a 6 pool. Okay, that's all I really need to check for against Zerg. So anyways, the key thing here, we're remembering to always build these. And the reason why I had that one hotkey is that way I could still scout, I could still bring up this and check it while I was doing that little bit of scouting to make sure I did not miss. Okay, notice my minerals are getting high. Yours probably will too, if we look up here. But right now we're not focusing on specifically, making sure that your minerals stay low. We're just focusing on, let's put someone at this. We're just focusing, I totally did that wrong. We're just focusing on building those pylons and building those probes. You can queue up one extra if you want. It will help you a little bit. And just not being behind on that timing. Okay, throwing down another pylon because I'm getting close to my maximum amount. So throw that down. Oh, I should have thrown down an assimilator. Okay, not a huge deal. We're not really focusing on being perfect play right now. We're just looking at doing that good macro to get out of bronze. Of course, you want to make sure your production facilities are started early enough to get some units to defend you. But other than that, we're not too worried about having all of our other timings perfect. But, okay, checking just before I go and build this, I heard a probe finish, so I'm going to check and make sure that, whoa, grabbed too many there. Okay. Make sure we're always producing those probes and those pylons so we're not supply blocked. Okay, now we're going to build one more pylon as we are actually starting to get a little bit low again. And build another gateway. And notice when I'm playing against Zerg, I'll leave one hex right here like this. I won't put it in the middle. That allows me to still get my stocks out of my base. Of course, making sure I'm still building those pylons and probes. And I'm going to build another assimilator as we're already above 20 supply. And that's just something you sort of want to do with Protoss. Okay, get my warp. Oh, yeah, not supposed to be using hotkeys other than my whatchamacallit, my Nexus. Okay, so click Chrono Boost, click there. Sorry guys. Okay, but I definitely do want, if you're not going to use any other hotkeys, definitely at least just use this one. Once you get comfortable with hotkeys, you can definitely use a lot more, but you know, you don't have to rush. No, still building those workers. My base is actually fully saturated now. So, sorry guys. I'm just too used to using those hotkeys. Okay, my base is fully saturated now. So technically I can stop producing for a little bit if you realize it's fully saturated. But considering that we know we're going to expand at some time too, we might want to consider, building some extra workers so that when we do get that extra base. And also it's really good practice just for this macro to keep building those. Okay, so I'm looking at what I have right now, and I haven't overbuilt my supply. You notice I'm not like, I don't have like 20 spare room for supply, so I haven't been overbuilding my supply, which is good. I have not been overbuilding buildings, but one thing I can say is, okay, with Protoss, I can use 3 gateways and run 1 robotics facility off of 1 base. So this means I can actually build 1 more gateway. And let's get a, oh, wait. Okay, so his army's coming towards me. I think I'm prepared though. I've got these zealots here that yeah, they're just on hold position. I've got a couple stalkers in behind to help defend. And yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good now. And of course you can get that robo bay when you're dealing with, there we go. Whoa, that's a big force. Anyways, I'm not too worried. I've got lots of units here, hopefully. Hopefully is the key word. And oh no, I might lose. So we'll find out really soon. Okay, just move those back a little bit. In this case, I'll accept Chrono Boost. Now we're playing against the hard AI. He's probably going to be a little more aggressive than your average. Player that you're playing against. Okay, so this is a horrible example. I'm going to have to re-record this. Or am I? No, it looks like as if I'm actually going to hold this off. Wow, isn't that amazing? That Immortal just popped out and owned those roaches in the face, so that was pretty cool. And, of course, this is a little hard for me not using hotkeys, but that's okay. And we're just going to have all of, whoa, hey, come on, Immortal. I want you to stay there. We're just going to have all these here. Now, one thing I want you to really notice is I am not going to be pushing out or trying to be aggressive. I'm just going to sit back and build up my forces and my army. It's going to be the main thing. Okay, we're already getting to that 10-minute mark, and remember I said I wanted you to expand by that 10-minute mark. So I've got lots of resources. I'm going to just throw down an expansion. Let's go. I'm going to hotkey it, but don't worry about the fact that I just hotkeyed that. And I want you to realize if they have some Zerglings, Zealots are good, but Zealots are good, period. The Stalkers are really the best unit against those roaches. Well, the Immortals are, but the Stalkers are the next best. Okay, we can start building Colossi now, and oh, can't get that yet. Anyways, check, make sure you still have 3 works on each gas. Okay, and the other thing is, now that you've got this probe out here, you're going to want to be putting down some pylons. And you're going to be wanting to be building some gateways there very soon. Okay, and of course, one of the key things you want to remember is you want to be building these units. Oh, I didn't realize I was actually supply blocking myself. So guys, forgetting about the pylons and probes rules. That's not good. Okay, there we go. Now I've got my pylons out. Yeah, it was sort of forgetting. Yeah, I can't lie to you. That was pretty much me forgetting. Okay. Okay, and now the other thing is base coming up. So what I want to do is I want to build extra production facilities because I have another base. Remember, this is at we've been doing our pylons and probes, building our pylons and probes. I can transfer a bunch down just because I've been building all those extras. We've been doing those pylons and probes. So we've been getting that first part down, pylons and probes, pylons and probes. So right now we've got a lot of economy going, we've got a lot of pylons. Okay, the second part was we weren't building what we didn't need. Okay, right, got a lot more supply than I need. It's a little forgivable later in the game. I will definitely say that. You know? So we're not going to harp too much on that. That's not a big deal. Notice I'm still just staying in my base, and I'm just worrying about getting a big army. As far as I'm concerned, when you're in the Bronze League, this is exactly what you can do. Okay, pylons and probes, pylons and probes. Okay, let's look at this battle. Oh, go and attack to defend these buildings. Turn them into gateways there with that hotkey. And look at those zealots in the front. They really do that damage. They tank all of the damage from the Hydras. The Hydras are worried about killing them. The Hydras did not spend time attacking my Stalkers or that Colossi in the back. We need to keep this Colossi alive. That's what really does all of your damage for you. Okay, pylons and probes, pylons and probes. You will notice, I've noticed a lot of bronze players, when they get later in the game and they've got this second base up, often what they forget to do is to build pylons, or they forget to build probes for the second base. So you want to make sure, okay, now look, this base looks like it's getting fully saturated, so now I want to rally these units to my other base. The reason why I didn't have to at first was because I had moved a whole bunch of workers over, making this base a little undersaturated. Now the other thing is, even if you're not going to use your hotkeys, I would suggest adding your gateways to the hotkeys, so at least you can click them here rather than having to go double click them all. That will speed things up. Because remember, I said that I'm not going to focus too much on using all of those hotkeys. As you can see, still placing these individually, just to show that really to get out of bronze, you don't really need that hotkey. Okay, you want to get that thermal lance, obviously, at some point. We want to get this colossi. Oh, and pylons and probes, pylons and probes. We're not building buildings we don't need to. Of course, now I need to build my pylons. Should have built those a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Okay. Do I have any idle workers? No, I don't. That's always a good thing to sort of check once in a while is, do you have idle workers? Okay, so pylons and probes, we've just taken care of our pylons again. You know, once you get later in the game, more forgiving if you just build like three at once rather than constantly. But beginning of the game, you really want to build them in good timing like we did earlier. Okay, so pylons and probes is done. We're not building more buildings than we need. I don't have a ton of excessive buildings. But can I produce... How much can I produce off of 2 bases? Well, actually, I can produce more than this. And also, you want to be getting upgrades as you get later in the game. You want to be teching up, things like that. So, we're going to click on our gateways, get out some more units, because we always want to have units, or else we will lose. Okay. Yep, so... Pylons and probes, pylons and probes, we're not building too many buildings. Now we're building, saying, okay, I can produce more than this off of 1 base. I've actually can put more buildings. So the forge was one of those things that we produce extra, because we get upgrades out of it. Also, I can get more gateways, and Robobay, or Stargates, or whatever tech you want to choose. But I can definitely do a lot more production buildings. So that's one thing we want to worry about right now, is more production buildings. Okay, pylons and probes, always keep that in the back of your head. Now notice I've got 3 queued up on this, 2 queued up on there. You never want to do more than that. That's actually quite a bit to have that, you know, 3 and... Whoa! Oh, it got connected. That's cool that that computer did that. That's pretty cool, actually. I've never seen the computer do something like that. Okay, let's get our gateways. Let's build some more units. And of course, I'm not worrying about getting any sentries because we're in bronze and we're not worried about that force field micro, not worried about that stuff. Okay, probe, okay, I need pylons as well, let's get pylons. See, and that's the other thing, is when you're later in the game like this, you actually do end up using, using up your supply pretty fast. So, you know, it's a good idea to build those pylons in groups. Okay, this base looks fully saturated. That looks good. Now I'm going to move with this big army. And we're going to start pushing out. Because one thing you do want to realize is you definitely don't want... oops, that's 4. Is you don't want your opponent to, you know, be building bases everywhere and then completely beat you just because he built so many bases as well. Oops, I got a sentry, didn't mean to. Oh well, it's not a big deal. And we're just moving around the map and we're looking for those bases to pick off. And of course, we've got quite a big army now, so you really should be feeling pretty safe. And of course, we can cut out, now we can stop doing probes, because they're fully saturated. But if we look at this, we're actually, this base is almost mined out. We're at the 20-minute mark. So, you know, it's sort of like right now we need to actually start building another base. Or we could have started one a bit earlier, but it's definitely something you want to keep in mind, that there will become a certain point where you're going to run out of base. Of course, we can probably win the game right now. But, you know, we can see what happens. So we've got a lot of armies split up. So I'm going to destroy these rocks, and then I'm going to bring my whole army together before attacking. Oh, that's not dead yet. Okay, let's bring my whole army together before attacking. Let's start building some more units. Okay, I need more pylons as well. And of course, I can still produce more off of this base. And also, the other big thing is we're getting into that late game phase where not only can you produce, you know, we're getting into that late game phase where you want those extra production facilities just because. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So we do have 6 work gates right now. 6 is an okay number, especially since we haven't made that third base yet. Whoa, I just saw Mutalisk. Okay, doesn't matter. They're just attacking. And of course, you want to be careful. You don't want these colossi to die. So if you do have the skill, just do a little bit of micro to get them to move back. Okay, so we got to work. If we look at that battle, we can see, okay, we're just going to win that battle. So I can actually move away. I'm pretty confident in saying, okay, yeah, even on my mini-map I can see. I was pretty sure that, so I moved away so that I could think about building this nexus. And of course, pylons, pylons, pylons. And I would be saying probes too, except that right now we don't actually really need to build probes, because we can take all these ones that were at this base and move them over here. Of course, we will end up needing a couple extra probes just because we've still got these ones on gas. But it looks like I've got a few extras here, so I can just move those extras. Looks like I don't need to check up on my army once in a while, but I was pretty sure it was doing good. Because basically, you know, at this point our opponent has not been macroing as well as we have. Was sort of the key factor here. And that's what we're relying on, is not specifically skill with your army and your units. We just sat in our base. We got a lot more resources than him. We got a lot more, pretty much everything than him. We just made sure that we did a better job of building things than he did. Okay. And of course there comes a GG from the computer who's now offering to surrender. So there we go. That's how you execute. That's how you execute sort of what I've shown you to get out of bronze. And the only other thing that I'll quickly do right now is I'll just throw up some more gateways just to show that later in the game you want a lot of production facilities compared to early in the game. Because even now you might say, oh, you have 3 bases now, so I can build to produce off of 3 bases. Well, technically only 2 of them are mining. This one you can see a lot of workers at. This one you can see a lot of workers at. This one you don't see many workers at. So we really are at 2 bases, but we still build these extra production facilities because let's say kill off half my army. Man, that's awesome that they're just getting one-shotted. I wonder if I can one-shot this immortal. Oh, baby! One-shot a colossi as well. Oh, one-shot and everything. So anyways, let's say that we just lost a bunch of that army. And we'll turn these into warp gates and we'll add them to our hotkey. So now when we click on this hotkey, I can actually build a lot of units at once. And of course, if you have your, if you are learning these hotkeys such as S and Z and you're learning how to use your shift key, this will be faster. But look at that. I just got 9 units out in, you know, as long as it took me to click, 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 which would be 9 seconds or whatever. So that was pretty good. And of course I can go back here, I've got the 2 robo bays, and I can build 2 colossi at once. Okay. And one other thing I do want to say is, you notice me just grab this blink. This is something you actually usually won't do. If you don't know how to use blink, why get it? Or if you're never going to use it. You know, very, very late in the game, sometimes you get it just because it's very late in the game. So there we go, guys. That was me showing you how to execute all of the things that I did in the previous video about how to get out of Bronze League. So I told you about them last game, but I didn't specifically say how to play your game. So what I want you to take from this is you're just sort of sitting in your base, you're being really good about those pylons and probes, you're not building buildings you shouldn't be doing, and then you're checking to say, okay, have I built enough buildings for one base, or can I still build more buildings off one base? Okay, and that's what we're doing to really make sure that our macro's good early game, to make sure that we end up having a bigger army than our opponent. And, you know, I really didn't scout around much, but, you know, as you get more comfortable, just have a probe wander around the mini-map between some of these extra bases, and make sure that he's not grabbing 3 or 4 bases while you're still sitting on 2. And then, of course, we went into the expand by 10 minutes, doing the tech up with the Colossi and the Robo Bays. Getting the upgrades were technology upgrades, so we're getting into that late game. When we get into that late game, we start getting the bigger units, we start upgrading our units, and we put down those extra production facilities once we got into our 3rd base. So that was all the things we did, and you notice we didn't really use a lot of micro skills, we didn't use a lot of, you know, just that very initial attack. Sure, we felt a little weak, but that Immortal popped out against those roaches. Beautiful. Got a couple more Stalkers, and I want you to notice that when I brought out those Stalkers, I put them back here because the Immortals were here. That way they couldn't be shot at while they were warping in. Very key. I want you guys to remember that. If you're willing to put out some forces and enemies in your base, either rally them to the enemy unit so they attack right away by right-clicking on the enemy unit when you have your building selected, or rally them somewhere where the enemy won't shoot them as they come in, and that way you can build up a big enough force that you can actually counter. Because if you just send one unit at a time, they're obviously going to kill off that unit damage. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but it is to me, and it will be to you as your skill gets better. So guys, get out of Bronze League, but most importantly, have a lot of fun playing StarCraft 2, and yeah, just a little bit of practice and learning how to macro is the basics of getting out of Bronze League.
Vespene Geyser exhausted.